My advice to intelligent teenagers who are in love is take your dates to the water boy, and if they like it, break up with them.
The two most famous and respected movie critics sometime got it wrong. We're going to look at 10 movies that Siskel or Ebert got wrong. Welcome back to the Junk Room, everybody. It's me, the Junkman, coming back at you with a whole new video. What are we going to talk about today? Well, I told you in the tease, we're going to look at 10 movies that the great Siskel and Ebert got wrong. Now, if you grew up in the 80s, I know they were around the 70s and the 90s, but really, for me, watching Siskel and Ebert was a thing of the 80s because it was really hard to get movie stuff on TV, especially movie reviewers. People talking about movies. You can get that on YouTube and almost anywhere you go now, people commenting on movies. But it was a very rare treat to see somebody reviewing movies, at least on a weekly basis, on TV. Now, I'll be honest, I love watching it, but it's one of those shows that I never knew when it came on. It was just one of those shows when you're channel surfing or flipping around, I would see Siskel and Ebert and I would watch it. Now, if there was a special movie opening that weekend, like let's say Batman, then I would tune in, then I would find the TV guide and try to find what channel Siskel and Ebert was on. But do you remember the TV guide? Just trying to translate that TV guide to know what channel Siskel and Ebert was on was like trying to read something on a pyramid wall. Do you remember that? Do I have black too or white too? Do I have the black and white too or just black too? You young kids that have the internet or TV guide on your TV, you really don't understand the struggle of trying to read a TV guide. Not knowing if you got black 41, white 41, black 12, white 12. It was a confusing time. But let's look at Siskel and Ebert. Like I said, I love watching these guys, but like any movie critic, at times they get stuff wrong. What we're going to do is look at 10 movies that they did get wrong, either Siskel or Ebert, or maybe even both. And this isn't a top 10 list where the one being the weirdest or the craziest one they got wrong. What I did is I looked at each film they did and compared it with the critic review on Rotten Tomatoes. And we're going to go in that order. We're going to start at number 10. Well, we're actually going to start at number 9. Number 10 is going to be a little different. Number 9 we're going to start with is the lowest rated movie that they didn't like that's on Rotten Tomatoes. You'll see how the list works as we go on. But let's start at number 10. Most of the list is going to be stuff that they didn't like that everybody else loved. But here we're going to start the list off with a movie that only got 4% on Rotten Tomatoes, and both Siskel and Ebert liked the movie. This is shocking. We're talking Speed 2. It's famous for being one of the worst sequels ever, but not just one of the worst sequels, one of the worst movies ever. It was panned by almost every critic there was, but here they were on national TV, Siskel and Ebert, both giving Speed 2 a thumbs up. Let's take a look at some of their review.
It isn't a great action movie, but it's a very competent one, and it gets the job done. I liked it.
I liked it, too. I was a little nervous there with the way you started out. I thought you were going to knock this picture. Nope. And Jason Patrick, and all three. The ship and the two actors are very good.
They both liked the picture. They both liked Speed 2. Now you're saying, well, I guess it's not that bad. I've never seen Speed 2. I've seen Speed 1. I really liked it, but I've heard lots of tales about how bad Speed 2 is, and I'm going to take most people's word for it. I mean, even if it's good, it's probably just barely good, something to watch on a Sunday when it's raining outside. But it makes it worse when you see the rest of this list for some stuff they didn't like, but they like Speed 2. Let's go to number 9. For this one, we're going to go back to the Future. No, not Back to the Future 1. I think almost everybody loved that one, right? Plane coming over. Can y'all hear that plane? Maybe I should wait till the plane passes. Anyway, what were we talking about? Oh, Back to the Future 2. This movie got 65% on Rotten Tomatoes. Still a fresh review. And who didn't like it out of Siskel and Ebert? Well, this time it was Siskel. That's right. Roger Ebert did like the film, but Siskel didn't like it. I think part of the problem is Siskel's comparing it to the first movie, when really, that's not really fair. You have to judge a movie by itself, not if the other movie was better. But let's take a look at the review and see what he said about it.
But it is a goofy and screwball movie, and I enjoyed it for what it is rather than in comparison with the earlier film.
Well, I had the same reaction to the comparison of the two. The first film had a heart to it, and I don't think there's any reason why a screwball comedy couldn't take time out to have heart. In other words, I think this film would have been helped a great deal if it had a little heart to it. I think it would have been true to the original picture. Instead, I found this to be very gadget-filled and really noisy in an unpleasant way, so that when I was watching it, I was seeing a lot of slapstick, a lot of racing around, and the character of Biff, the enemy of Michael J. Fox, is really the star of this second picture. And so I really found it kind of unpleasant to watch in a way, and I was looking forward to it, but I didn't enjoy it at all.
I think maybe it will suffer because people remember that the first movie really did move them emotionally. This is an entirely different movie.
And not as good.
Of course, it's a noisy, action-filled film. What's wrong with that?
Well, when the noise doesn't mean anything to you, then it doesn't.
He found it unpleasant to watch. He enjoyed watching Speed 2, but found Back to the Future 2 unpleasant to watch. Too many gadgets, he said. Now, I'll admit it probably doesn't have the heart of Back to the Future 1. It doesn't have the great storytelling as the first one. It's not as good as the first one. I'll give him that. But it's an entertaining movie. A lot better than Speed 2, I'm sure. So what other movies on this list? Let's go to number 8. And this time it's going to be a movie that Siskel did like. But old Ebert didn't like this one. And can you believe it? Batman. No, I'm not talking Batman and Robin or Batman Forever. I'm talking Batman from 1989. Ebert didn't like Batman. Let's find out his reasons why.
Here's a picture with adult stars, troubled characters, and a dark look. It's a shame that that approach has to be considered a risk these days, but I'm certainly glad the approach was taken. I enjoyed this Batman.
The film noir look of the film was very nice, but I didn't care about anything that happened in the movie. I never really found that these characters became people that I could get involved with. I felt that Nicholson, as the Joker, went on way too long. He was on too often. He was doing the same thing over and over. I found the relationship between Bruce Wayne and Vicky Vale didn't work at all. Kim Basinger and Michael Keaton. And there's a great deal of hostility and anger in this film. There's a great deal of bad feeling in it. And it's not a film for children. You call it an adult film. Another way to put it is, it's not for kids.
I don't think so.
It's an extremely disturbing film.
Don't you find that? Well, wait a minute. Aren't you glad to be disturbed? And you know how I mean that.
I would have been glad to be disturbed by a film that made me care.
Jack Nicholson as the Joker went on too long. I would have loved to see a Jack Nicholson Joker movie. What's he talking about? Ebert, you like Cop and a Half, and you didn't like Batman? That's what I feel like doing right now, size snools. This guy liked The Honeymooners movie, but he didn't like Batman 1989. Let's go to number 7. And we're going to go to one of my favorite movies of the 90s, one that I reviewed here, although many of you didn't care to watch it. And we're going to talk about The Professional, Leon, as some of you may know it as. And guess what? Siskel didn't like it. Ebert didn't like it. Both of them didn't like it. Ebert even found it kind of unbelievable at times. It's a movie. Movies can be unbelievable. How can you not like The Professional? Now, I'll give it. Maybe they watched the U.S. cut. It's not as good, although I enjoyed it when I saw the original long version. I got a review of that one if you want to check it out. But anyway, let's listen to some of their review and see what they thought about The Professional.
Made by the French director Luc Besson, who was so good with La Femme Nikita, but he stumbles badly here with his first American film, The Professional, a truly annoying picture, all style, no substance. So what's wrong with The Professional? Well, for starters, the villain, Gary Oldman, he's way over the top. Danny Aiello's mobster character seems like he's acting in another movie. The hitman has some boring affectations, carrying around a plant as his best friend even through the shootouts and drinking nothing but milk. The girl is presented as a bit of a tart, and it adds up to a stylish mess. Obviously, I didn't care for The Professional.
The hero is given the power to predict what and how the villains will behave so he can anticipate them. And there's a scene in this movie, for example, where they break in through a door, and after they've raced past him, it turns out that he's hiding in the ceiling on top of the door, and he shoots them. And then on another occasion, he's able to swing down, and while hanging upside down, he can shoot backwards and kill the people as they're coming in. Now, that works only if you know exactly what they're going to do.
Matilda is a tart. Gary Oldman's over the top. Oh, Siskel. What about you, Ebert? Oh, that can only happen in a movie. He knows right where to be at the right time. It's a movie. Get over it. Love that movie. I did a review of it. Did you see it? No, most of you didn't. It's got like 300 views. Although I had to fight with Sony over and over again to get them to release it and stop blocking it. But hey, I have fun making it. Check it out. So where are we at now? I think we're at number 6. Now this is a cult classic that everybody loves, except for Siskel. And can you believe we're talking about The Big Lebowski? Who doesn't love The Big Lebowski? This is a movie that you can just put on at any time throughout the day. If it's on TV and you're surfing the channels, you're going to stop on The Big Lebowski and you just can't help but watch it and quote it. This is a great movie. It's one of the Coen brothers' best films. Let's take a look at the review for The Big Lebowski from Siskel Ebert. He said the character of the dude wasn't worth his time. He liked Speed too, but he didn't like The Big Lebowski. The Big Lebowski has 83% on Rotten Tomatoes. Anyway, what's next? This one here is going to get you. Trust me. Sit down for this one. We're back to Siskel again. Ebert did like it. Siskel didn't. And we're talking Indiana Jones. No, not the Temple of Doom, which is a great Indiana Jones movie. What we're talking about here? He didn't like The Last Crusade. Siskel did not like The Last Crusade. He said in the movie you couldn't even buy that Henry and Indiana are father and son. He even seemed to think it was almost like a remake of the original. Seen that, done that, and boring to him. Let's take a look at his review.
First film is the third and last Indiana Jones adventure, and although this production is exceedingly well made, save for a rousing ending, I wanted more. More humanity, more wit, more laughs. More of a film like the original Raiders of the Lost Ark. What is so about the movie is its machine-like march through Nazi lairs and caves in the hunt for the Holy Grail. None of it is bad, it's just of a piece. Thunderous to the point of pushing one away from the screen. And I didn't believe the father-son relationship between Connery and Ford. I just saw two good actors occupying the same space next to each other.
So are you voting thumbs down?
Yeah, reluctantly.
Because I'm voting thumbs up. I enjoyed it. One thing I will agree with you, though, is that the plots are very similar between this one and the first one.
You didn't get tired at all when they were just going through the story? Didn't you think, gee, I've been through this before,
well,
it's a little loud?
No, I didn't, and I'll tell you what, you've got to realize this is the third in the series. Maybe Spielberg is wise to end it at this point.
Well, I felt like I had seen it before, and I didn't, did you really believe they were father and son?
Gene, I don't, earlier you were saying the film didn't have enough humanity. I don't go to an Indiana Jones film for humanity. I don't go to an Indiana Jones film for convincing father-son relationships.
But if it
I go for action and stunts. I thought that
Last Crusade pushed him away from the screen, but he loves Speed too. Last Crusade has 88% on Rotten Tomatoes from the critics. I never met anyone that didn't like The Last Crusade. Whew. Let's go to number 4 and talk about a Quentin Tarantino movie. That's right, Quentin Tarantino, which you think most movie critics love the guy. I understand that his taste might not be for some, but when it comes to movie critics, he's usually adored by them. But both Siskel and Ebert didn't like Reservoir Dogs. And how much does it have on Rotten Tomatoes? 90%. 90% of critics liked it, except for Siskel and Ebert. Let's take a look at their review.
And as the guys assemble back at the warehouse, there's too much talk from characters who should really be unconscious or mad with pain instead of giving us all that dialogue. I liked the movie as far as it went. I wanted it to go further and try more.
I had the same reaction, Roger. I thought it was a lot of an exercise in style, but then I got that really quick. I mean, I understand what he's trying to do here, but we get that within 15 minutes.
They seem to think it was okay at the most, but well, they said they got the gist of the movie in the first 5-10 minutes of the film. They like Speed too, but they didn't like Reservoir Dogs. If you grew up in the 80s, one of the greatest action movies of the 80s had to be Bruce Willis and Die Hard. And can you believe it got a thumbs down? Not by Siskel, but this time by Ebert. Die Hard has 93% of the critics approving of it. But not Ebert. He liked Cop and a Half, but he didn't like Die Hard. He liked the Honeymooners movie, but he didn't like Die Hard. Ebert liked Speed 2, but he didn't like Die Hard. Let's take a look at his review.
Die Hard has a lot of action scenes like the one on the roof. So many of them you're amazed the skyscraper doesn't turn into the towering inferno. They're dropping explosives down the elevator shaft and whole floors are being blown apart. But you can also see there, I think, one of the big weaknesses of the movie, and that's the idiotic behavior of the Los Angeles Police Department. There was one character in this movie, a deputy chief, whose actions are so stupid and so unmotivated and wrong-headed that finally he just brings the movie to a stop every time he opens his mouth. Bad writing. He always says the wrong thing. He understands nothing. And with a movie like this, once you start picking out the loopholes, and there are a lot of them, it doesn't matter how good the stunts or the special effects are, or even how good Bruce Willis is. You just can't stay in. Well, what about all the cops on the ground? What about this deputy?
But they stay away from them. They stay away. They stay away from him.
Willis is brought down to the ground.
Yes.
Which is a miracle considering that all of the elevator shafts have been dynamited.
I followed him all the way through.
The cop is standing there saying, "We're going to bill you for all the damage you've caused."
There are always.
You want to groan at things.
There
like
are idiotic cops in the Dirty Harry movies too, and you
no.
laugh at them. Come on, because Harry's smarter.
This is not an idiotic. This is not an idiotic cop. This is idiotic writing to make a cop like this. When it would have been better if he just pushed the action forward instead of constantly being wrong-headed.
One supporting character, two very interesting lead characters.
Oh, Ebert, what are we gonna do with you? Don't like Die Hard. What number am I at? Number 2. And it's getting crazier, okay? I mean, I might understand someone didn't like Back to the Future 2. Maybe. They didn't like Batman. Okay, maybe it wasn't for them. But can you believe this next movie that has 99% of critics loving it, these guys both didn't like? You're not going to believe it when I tell you what this one is. Aliens. The sequel to Alien. Now, I said both of them didn't like it, but Ebert did give it a thumbs up, but if you'll see in this review, it's a kind of middleweight thumbs up, almost a forced thumbs up. He wasn't excited about giving it a thumbs up. Seems like there was a lot he didn't like about the film also. And Siskel just gave it a thumbs down. Aliens! They liked Speed 2, but they didn't like Aliens. Roll the clip.
That the aliens are such a turnoff that if you do see them, you won't go to the movie. And that sort of leads into my kind of two-sided review of this film. This is one of those on the one hand and on the other hand movies. On the one hand, it's very well made. Sigourney Weaver does a terrific, very strong acting job. She holds the movie together with a powerful performance. But on the other hand, and this is a big but, at the end of the movie, you know what? I felt really bad. My stomach was all knotted up, and I was jumpy and unhappy and tense, and it took me a while to get back to normal again. Aliens was so strong it was overkill. It really did upset me.
Use you and everyone listening to me as a good friend and say, hey, I think you want to see this movie.
Really?
Yes, for the following reasons. I think the key word in your review was overkill. This is pretty much wall to wall. The monsters are on the attack. And once we see the first monster, from that point out, you got about an hour or more of monsters on attack. Mm-hmm. And that was about probably a half an hour too much for me.
It's not to admire at some level.
I'll admire it only at this level. Good art direction. Sigourney Weaver has to hold the movie up alone, and she's not equal to it because there are so many monsters.
Oh, I think she is equal to it. I will give her that.
It's overkill. The monsters are on attack. Isn't that what you want? That sounds great to me. Overkill. Speed 2, a great movie. Thumbs up. Aliens, thumbs down. And a mild, almost thumbs down from Ebert. Crazy. This next one is the final one. And I can't believe this one. You're not going to believe this one either. Now, Ebert did like this one, but Siskel didn't. Another thumbs down from Siskel, the guy that likes Speed 2. And this movie has 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. Every critic loved it, but I guess they didn't talk to Siskel. And it's one of the greatest movies of the 80s. It holds up today, still. And they're still making sequels to it. We're talking The Terminator. That's right. Siskel did not like The Terminator. He gave The Terminator a thumbs down. Can y'all believe that? A thumbs down to The Terminator. I respected this guy. Both of them. And they like Speed 2. Now, I know they didn't like Young Guns 2, and I give them that. Although I enjoyed it. But Terminator? Really? Let's watch the review.
I think I'm going to give thumbs up. In fact, I know I'm going to give thumbs up to this picture, believe it or not. That
a lot of
scene is pretty much typical of the whole movie, which is kind of a cross between Dirty Harry and the Road Warrior meet the killer from Halloween. This is a surprising movie. It's violent, it's bloody, it's sadistic, but it is also well acted and directed. It is R-rated. Don't go unless you like strong action pictures, but I must say, I did like it.
And I was not impressed. I don't know why. Other than to say that the action seemed to be pretty much routine. There was a lot of the futuristic stuff on the planet where this guy's come from. And that seemed to me to be just a Rector set toy making. The love story that you talk about actually is kind of nice. And I think that within that little love story is actually a potential for a full-scale film. If it had been about that, I would have enjoyed it a lot more.
Well, so as an action picture, I thought it was pretty well made.
As an action picture, I thought it was not particularly well made, but the love story, you're right, is kind of nice.
He didn't like the scenes that showed the future. I mean, that still holds up today. That's some great looking effects. Even, what was this, 1981, early 80s? He wished it was more about the love story. Now, I could go on and talk about other movies that either Siskel or Ebert didn't like, such as Silence of the Lambs or Predator. And there's a lot more out there, but we're going to stop it at 10. Because I don't know if I can take any more. Anyway, thank you for watching. As always, support this channel. Head over to patreon.com or thatjunkman.com and buy some cool t-shirts like my Space Giant shirt. Looked up to these guys. How could they be so wrong? Thank you for watching. Thumbs up the video. Subscribe to the channel. I'll be back again with another video very soon.
Thank you, sir, for that unsolicited testimony.